What's good, fam? Michael Lawrence Tyler, who the world knows as Mystikal, just had his clock stopped with a 20-year sentence at hard labor. He stood in a Louisiana courtroom and admitted he deserved the maximum punishment for what he did, which makes this more than just another rap legal update. For a man who is already 55 years old, a 20-year stretch in the parish is basically a life sentence without the formal label. The walls finally closed in at the Ascension Parish courthouse on June 16, 2026. Ending a saga that has been dragging through the mud since his arrest back in 2022. The man who used to scream about being in danger is facing the reality that the justice system finally took him at his word. This sentencing in Ascension Parish was the result of a legal chess match that started back in March of 2026 when Tyler decided to take a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to third-degree rape, and while that might sound light to some people, you have to understand the stakes he was facing before he signed that paper. His original charge was first-degree rape, which carries a mandatory life sentence with no possibility of parole in the state of Louisiana. By moving the needle down to third degree, his defense team capped his exposure at 20 years, which was a desperate move to keep him from dying behind bars. Even with that deal on the table, things got messy at the last minute when Tyler tried to pull a fast one on the court. He filed a motion to withdraw his guilty plea just days before he was supposed to go away, claiming he didn't fully understand the agreement. The judge in Ascension Parish shut that nonsense down immediately and ruled that the deal was binding and valid. It was a failed escape attempt that only made him look more desperate in front of a judge who was clearly tired of the legal gymnastics. The most disturbing part of the hearing was the moment Michael Tyler actually opened his mouth and validated everything people have been saying for years. The victim stood up during the proceedings and detailed the horrific July 2022 assault that took place at Tyler's home in Prairieville. After she finished sharing her trauma, Mystikal looked at her in the court and made a statement that stopped everyone in their tracks. He told the victim that if he did those things to her, then he deserved the maximum sentence possible under the law. That admission was the first time we have ever seen this man stop fighting and actually lean into the gravity of his own history. Fans and critics have watched him navigate the legal system with high-priced lawyers and lucky breaks for decades, but those words felt like a final surrender. The Associated Press reported the quote, and it went viral immediately because it was the one thing he spent his entire career trying to deny. He finally said what we were all thinking, which is that his pattern of behavior was never a misunderstanding or a series of accidents. It was a choice, and even he couldn't find a way to justify it while staring at a victim who was broken by his actions. People in the courtroom noticed the atmosphere shift the second those words left his lips, as the defined persona of the no-limit soldier completely evaporated. It felt like the weight of every past allegation and every missed opportunity for change crashed down on him at once. The hip-hop community has had a love-hate relationship with his talent for years, but this admission ended the debate on whether he was a danger to the people around him. By stating he deserved the max, he was acknowledging that his luck had finally run out and the receipts were too loud to ignore. The reality of 20 years at hard labor in the Louisiana heat is a brutal prospect for a man who is already well into middle age. This is not a country club prison where you can sit around and write lyrics all day, and the sentencing reflects a shift in how the courts handle legacy artists. Tyler's admission served as a grim confirmation of the public sentiment that has been building since his first major conviction in the early 2000s. He basically handed the judge the keys to his cell and admitted that the safety of the community was more important than his freedom. This was the moment his legend pass officially expired, and he was the one who ended up signing the cancellation notice himself. The violence that triggered this 20-year sentence went down inside Michael Tyler's own house in Prairieville, and these details are honestly hard to hear. Testimony from the victim reveals this whole situation sparked over a small argument about some missing cash, which led to a brutal physical attack. Tyler allegedly started punching and choking her, showing a side of him that goes way beyond just being a high-energy performer. She talked about the trauma of having her braids ripped out while he kept her trapped, which proves how savage this encounter really was. He didn't just hurt her physically, because he also snatched her car keys and her phone so she couldn't call for help or escape the house. This turned into a straight-up hostage situation right in the middle of a domestic dispute, but the story gets even more twisted. He allegedly wouldn't let her leave until she sent him money through a mobile app, which is some of the nastiest behavior I have ever heard of. Shaking someone down for a digital payment while they are bleeding and terrified shows a level of greed that is just straight up demonic. We are talking about a man with millions of streams and a whole legacy on the line, acting like a petty thief in his own living room. The victim made the right move by going to the hospital as soon as she got away, and those medical receipts gave the state all the evidence they needed. Those records were the beginning of the end for him, leading to his arrest in late July of 2022 and paving the way for this 20-year stretch. As the reality of 2 decades in prison started setting in, his legal team tried to pull a desperate move just before the June 16 sentencing date. They filed a motion to withdraw the plea deal he already signed back in March, which looked like a total panic move to anyone watching. His lawyers claimed he was under extreme emotional distress and felt too much pressure when he first agreed to the terms of the deal. Most people saw right through that because everyone knew he just realized he would be 75 years old by the time he finished that sentence. The judge in Ascension Parish wasn't feeling that argument for a second, especially since Tyler had his full legal team right there when he signed the paperwork. Once that motion was denied, he had no choice but to face the music for the 3rd-degree rape charge without any more excuses. That failed attempt just proved he never had a real defense strategy, especially with the physical evidence and the testimony working against him. Before we move on and see how Tyler's team finally ran out of tricks and left him facing that prison jumpsuit, tell me what y'all think about him trying to back out of a deal that literally saved him from a life sentence. Tell me in the comments, no cap. While you at it, like and subscribe. Let's continue. You don't try to walk away from a deal that saved you from a life sentence unless you are panicking because the receipts are undeniable. By trying to pull that stunt, he basically confirmed he was just looking for a loophole to dodge the consequences of his own actions. This legal failure showed his team had finally run out of road, and there were no more tricks left to keep him out of a prison jumpsuit. The judge made it very clear that a deal is a deal, particularly when the crime is this serious and the defendant has a history like his. The court basically told him that his time for playing games with the justice system was officially over, and that rejection was a massive reality check. For a guy who had spent half his life in a courtroom, this was the loudest signal yet that nobody was interested in giving him another chance. He had to walk into that hearing knowing his fate was sealed and that the next 20 years would be spent doing hard labor. The whole process showed a level of desperation we almost never see from big-name artists. But the facts from that July 2022 incident were just too heavy to beat. When a victim finds the strength to go to the hospital and get that violence on record, the celebrity shield falls apart in a hurry. Tyler tried to say he was forced into that plea deal, but the judge saw right through it and shut that move down immediately. Now he has to sit with the reality of his choices in that Prairieville home, knowing his best legal tricks couldn't outrun the truth. That 20-year sentence is the final result of a pattern that finally caught a man who thought his voice could get him out of anything. This 20-year term of hard labor is basically the closing chapter of a story defined by trauma and violence for more than 2 decades. Looking back at the history of Michael Tyler, this is actually the 2nd time the system has locked him up for a major sexual offense. His luck finally ran out after years of relying on his name to get by. Between 2004 and 2010, he did a 6-year stretch for sexual battery and extortion against his own hairstylist, which should have been his biggest wake-up call. That 2004 case was especially twisted because it included a calculated extortion plot where he forced the victim to sign a fake confession for stealing money before the assault even started. That kind of planning showed a dangerous mind even back then, but the industry mostly looked the other way while he kept his career on life support. The behavior didn't stop after his first time in prison, and he faced similar rape and kidnapping charges again in 2017. Those charges were eventually dropped in 2020 because of a lack of evidence, but that lucky break only seemed to make him feel more untouchable. He spent 18 months in jail waiting for that 2017 trial, yet he still walked right back into the same cycle that led to this downfall. This 2026 sentencing finally puts an end to 20 years of allegations and close calls that have haunted him since his prime days with No Limit Records. At 55 years old, a 2-decade sentence at hard labor in Louisiana is a career-ending judgment for everyone watching. There is no comeback tour or chart run waiting for him when he won't see the outside of a prison wall until he is 75. My original take here is that his admission in that courtroom is the final nail in the coffin for the era where rap legends used their status to hide predatory behavior. For years, people tried to say he was just a misunderstood artist with a wild personality, but the truth is, he was just incredibly lucky until the receipts got too loud to ignore. This case sets a massive precedent for how the courts handle aging icons who think their past hits can make up for their current crimes. We are seeing a major shift where the talent of a rapper no longer matters more than the safety and dignity of the community. Mystikal finally confirmed what the fans have suspected for decades, showing that the pattern eventually becomes the person and the luck always runs out. What happened in that Ascension Parish courtroom was the moment the facts finally weighed more than the fame. Even Tyler had to admit his actions deserved the most severe punishment the law could give him. by telling his victim that he deserved the maximum sentence. He basically admitted that every doubt held against him over the last 20 years was valid. The time for giving endless chances to people who refuse to change is over, and this case proves that celebrity is not a shield against accountability. His legacy is now tied to these violent acts instead of his classic records, and he has 20 years of hard labor to think about how he threw it all away. This sentence is definitely going to ripple through the industry and might make labels cut ties with other legends who have messy histories. I need to hear your take on this guilty plea right now. Drop a comment and tell me if 20 years is a fair outcome for a repeat offender in his later years. Maybe you think the court should have left that original life sentence on the table. Give it to me straight on whether the industry finally made the right move by letting his legend status expire. No cap. While you are down there, hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss the realest breakdowns on the drama hitting the hip-hop world. We have more to get into, so do not go anywhere.